Revenue share was paying my entire mortgage for a house that I built in 2020, brand new. So needless to say, passive income covering my, larger than expected mortgage payment, because I did a 15-year note, was more than I could have expected rev share to grow to.
Casey, thank you so much for joining me today, man. So great to have you on. Congrats on the new baby.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So I wanted to just kind of get started and talk about your story, how you got started as a real estate agent and your story in real estate investing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I like to I like to be public with my story as much as I can, because I feel like I'm very much the average Joe that made something for himself over the course of the last 7-8 years since I got into real estate. 19, I was struggling, decided to join the Marine Corps, served 4 years, got out, and essentially was told to get my college degree. I think like all of us were told to do. And that's exactly what, one of the big reasons why I joined the Marine Corps was so I could have my school paid for. Well, I did just that. I got a bachelor's degree in math. I got a master's in education, started teaching high school, and it was within like 3 months that I was like, well, I'm in my late 20s now at this point, and I thought I was supposed to be fulfilled because I did what everyone said to do, and it wasn't the case. Nothing against teaching. I've got a whole family of educators, and it's what actually led me to education was just the amount of time that I was able to see my mom be home when I was a child, or just the little bit more flexible schedule that they have versus my dad that worked all the time. All of those kind of had influenced me to become a teacher. But it wasn't until I actually got to teaching that I was like, there's got to be something more. And what actually led me to real estate was real estate investing first. I knew I kind of had an analytical background, being a, math guy. I knew that teaching was not the most fruitful career. I know I wanted to either progress to like an athletic director or administration, kind of work my way up like some folks may do in a corporate job. But I knew there was other alternatives out there to like speed up my financial well-being, I guess you could say. So dove into real estate investing, leveraging my VA loan as a veteran, house hacking, buying a duplex, buying single-family homes and renting them out while I lived in them to other people. And that's what really led me to getting my license. Was I was just like, well, if I'm going to be buying some homes, I might as well get a little bit of commission on the side. Hey, maybe I buy a house every 3 to 5 years and I'll, get a quick buck on the commission side of things. Well, teaching, as I said, in terms of flexibility, I had conference periods, I had lunch, I had wrestling practice where I had my phone on me. There, was plenty of opportunity for me to work on my phone remotely as far as generating business through social media. So I got my license and started essentially doing that, for lack of better terms, while I was working, while I was teaching. I thought maybe, 5 years down the road I could transition out of teaching, and it took me a while to kind of get the ball rolling. But I was out of teaching essentially with notice, probably 7 months after getting my license. Wow. And then the rest, I guess you could say, is kind of history. Left teaching after that school year at the end of May. Full-time that year from June 1st on, and I closed 33 deals, I guess part-time because I was still teaching the first 5 months, and then the last 7 months full-time, and then continued to scale my business from there.
So your business really took off. I mean, what was it that you used to leverage in that first year when you were doing part-time?
So, and I think this still holds true to my business now, this month effectively being licensed for 7 years. It all stems from having a niche or something to set yourself apart. And this could be very broad in business in general. It doesn't have to apply to just real estate agents, but having a niche that's going to set you apart from someone else that's trying to compete with you. So for instance, mine obviously was being a realtor. Everyone and their mom is a realtor. I think we can all speak for ourselves there, where it's a very easy entry profession, but it is a very difficult profession to find continued success in. So for me, it was the fact that I had one investment property the very moment I got my license, and then I had another about 5 months later. So I had two under my belt, had a duplex and a single family. So being able to network with other folks in their 20s and 30s and say, hey, I'm not just helping you invest. I'm an investor myself. I own a duplex. I have tenants. I have leases in place. Like, I've done what you're trying to do. Let me show you how I did it, right? Versus, the analogy that I use a lot of the times is, something that could be applying here in a couple years. I'm not going to take my son to soccer practice and pay for that soccer practice if the soccer coach has never stepped foot on a soccer field, right?
Right.
I'm going to pay, and essentially, for the most part, when it comes to realtors, buyers are not paying, and I was very buyer heavy early on. They were getting all the expertise, all the knowledge that I had, and the experience as an investor without really having to pay my commission due to the sellers paying my commission. But they got all the knowledge and expertise that came along with me knowing what I was doing and helping them do it versus just sitting here saying, hey, I'm investor friendly. I rent down the road, but I'm going to help you buy an investment property. So you're telling me you've never invested in real estate, but you're going to help me invest? I mean, it just holds a lot more weight if you've actually done it before. Like, if you own a home, you're probably going to have a little bit more understanding than, a realtor per se that, has never owned a home themselves. Well, I own investment properties, and it helped me really get my foot in the door with just helping a ton of, newbie, early on investors in my career.
100%, man. I can totally relate. Like, literally that story, other than being a math teacher, which is something I could never do. But, getting into real estate investing first, listening to Bigger Pockets, house hacking, and then meeting essentially who is one of my best friends today, was like, you should definitely get your license if you're going to start investing in real estate. And then doing that, and then being able to leverage that knowledge. For me, the background was construction. For you, it was math. But both of them have pretty significantly positive attributes when it comes to real estate. You have to know your numbers, right?
Yeah.
And you have to know about houses. So I definitely relate a lot to your story. And so clearly, being a numbers guy, it seems like that you, from an early on in your business, looked at different brokerage models and saw that there were some that were more advantageous than others in terms of additional revenue opportunities. And one of the things I want to talk about today, specifically rev share. And I know you weren't at Real from the beginning. So talk about your journey and how, you found Real.
Yeah. So my initial understanding of real estate was passive income. It led me to buy my first investment property with my VA loan. It led me to, and I saw the fruition, or I guess I saw the benefits of that pretty quickly with, rates in 2017 being relatively low. The Dallas-Fort Worth area where I live, the cost hadn't exploded yet. I was able to buy a duplex, have a tenant on the other side, rent the 2 bedrooms upstairs, and I really wasn't paying my mortgage. So being able to go from renting, an 1,100 one-bedroom apartment to now having that cost of living eliminated, it led me to, renting out my cars on Turo. So I would eliminate my car payment and insurance. I was just trying to find ways to bring down my expenses, even though it technically was increasing my cost. I was having other people pay for my living, I guess you could say. So passive income was always what led me to the next decision. And that led me to doing some research when it came to real estate brokerages. And at the time, a brokerage that I think a lot of us know called eXp Realty was still, this was in 2017, about 3,000 agents is when I joined. Still very, very new. The model was very, very new. Not a lot of people understood it or knew it. But I understood pretty quickly and understood the opportunity long term. Now with eXp, I knew my main priority out the gate was revenue share opportunity was not going to be there if I don't find any success in real estate. So for the first 18 months, all I did was focus on selling homes, and I sold a lot of homes. But then after you sell enough homes, after you, are very front facing with the successes that you may be having, and I also was very front facing with the struggles I was having in the industry, whether it be personal or business. You start building connections in the industry, and those connections in the industry that I didn't have from day one of being licensed started to turn into conversations about, hey, I've heard more about Real now. You guys are at about 10,000 agents, or sorry, EXP. I've heard about EXP Realty. Can we have a private discussion? Can we talk more about EXP, so on and so forth? And that led me to starting to attract agents at, my brokerage at the time. I was at EXP for about 3.5 years and had brought on about 40 agents. And the revenue share that I was earning towards the end of 2020 when I left EXP for Real, EXP's revenue share was paying my entire mortgage for a house that I built in 2020, brand new. So, needless to say, passive income covering my, larger than expected mortgage payment, because I did a 15-year note, was more than I could have expected rev share to grow to.
And so you essentially took what I would consider a pretty big risk in joining Real when you already have a 40, agent network at EXP. Why?
So there was plenty of growing pains, and I'll say that both with EXP and in the early days of joining Real 2 at the end of 2020. The leadership and the direction that I felt EXP was headed, and a few instances that I won't get too specific about because I have nothing bad to say about EXP, certainly nothing bad to say about Real, and I'll never be the individual to pin, brokerages against one another. But there was just a consensus in my mind that, if another opportunity as far as a similar brokerage model would arise, because at the time there was not, it was just EXP, I would certainly look at it as an opportunity and see, full picture what the capability and long-term opportunities could present themselves for that broker. So I did my due diligence when it came to Real. I knew the VP of operations very well. I call her my real estate mom. She's since kind of retired from that position, but she was a huge reason for me coming over. I spoke with Tamir, the CEO of Real, and I also spoke to a handful of my colleagues and peers that were, considering the move as well, which we wound up all making the move together. And at the end of that, it really felt like a no-brainer. We were coming over at 1,100 agents, October 2020, with the opportunity to build this company almost from the ground up and build it the right way.
That's amazing. And so clearly you've seen the potential of revenue share from the start at both EXP and Real. And so you were able to essentially bring over a pretty good part of your network to Real. You started off on the right foot. Here we are now, 4 years later. How has revenue share impacted your life?
So I kind of have, I'm, again, very analytical, very numbers guy. I'm OCD. I've got spreadsheet after spreadsheet in terms of whether we're talking about rev share, whether or not we're talking about my gross rental income or net income on my rental properties, whether or not we're talking about commission and earned income, my stock portfolio that I've built here at Real, my own personal portfolio. Financially, just real estate as a whole has absolutely changed my life. Now, so I've never participated in a pyramid scheme. There's a lot of women, and I say that lightly, there's a lot of, whether it be makeup or cosmetic, MLMs where, you have to buy a certain amount of product and then go resell that product at a premium to be paid the amount of money through, the pyramid scheme, I guess. But any brokerage that you're going to go to, you're going to pay a split, you're going to pay a transaction fee, you're going to pay some kind of cost associated with whatever kind of brokerage you join. Now, the beauty with this new model that has come out, and honestly, most brokerages that are gaining any kind of traction have some kind of revenue share stock model. Not all of them are publicly traded, which means their finances are not public, which is a key contributor here in terms of just openness with the public. But there's also, and just let me be transparent here, there's not a lot of profitability with this model if we're just talking about selling homes. That's why here at Real, one of the biggest things that I love is there are multiple streams of income. Not streams of income that you have to, get divulged into some kind of craziness to earn additional income. I'm not going to go sell you a roof tomorrow that Real put on, or owns a roofing company. I'm not going to sell you solar panels from Real's solar company. In a real estate transaction, there is, at least in Texas, we're a title state, you're going to have a lender more than likely on the buyer side, whether or not you're representing a buyer or seller. Well, Real has Real Mortgage, meaning you can earn additional income if you're a licensed loan officer with Real Mortgage. You can also earn additional income if you use Real Title. There's also more coming out here in the I guess you could say horizon being just a couple months. Real Wallet's going to be unveiled across our company, where you're now getting a brokerage, a real estate brokerage that's kind of dabbling in fintech or not just commissions. Because when you have this model, there's a very low profit margin because all the money is going back to the agents, which is where it should go, rather than the brokerage themselves. Now, where the brokerage is making, more of its income is going to be from Real Title, Real Mortgage, all these other ancillary businesses, as well as Real Wallet, so on and so forth. That makes our profit or makes our company profitable in the long run. Now, the more agents we have, the more commissions will be paid, the more splits will be paid, the more hopefully individuals will use Real Title, Real Wallet, and Real Mortgage, which will increase our profitability over time. But there's not just one way to earn income as a real estate agent anymore. There's countless ways.
Which is so great, and that's why I joined Real, after connecting with you, about 7 months ago. And it's been incredible. Super excited to see the growth here in New England. But you were here at Real from the start, like you said, about 1,100 agents. Here we are now, about 20,000 agents. Do you think that the same opportunity exists for revenue share for agents coming on now, or do you think that there are still great opportunities for revenue share for agents coming on now?
So I like to use my time at EXP as an example. I joined EXP in 2017, new city, new agent, no, sales history whatsoever. And I didn't attract a single agent for 18 months. It wasn't my intention. I wanted to build my real estate business before I started attracting agents. Now, I joined EXP early. They were at about 3,500 agents. By the time I started to attract, they were at about 15,000, 20,000 agents. But I was still able to bring on enough agents at EXP as they continued to grow over the course of my last, 18, 20 months at EXP before I left to join Real, to change my life. I mean, if you're going to sit here and say $3,000 to $4,000 in passive income is not something that will make a difference in your life, then you probably don't need rev share. Now, that itself was paying my mortgage on a monthly basis at EXP. I knew that by coming over to Real, I was no longer that brand new agent that was going to take 18 months to attract an agent. I was coming over to Real as an experienced agent, having sold 20 million plus in the last couple of years in real estate. And I had much more influence coming over to Real than I did, just like probably anyone, when I first got licensed. It had been 3.5 years, and I had built up a lot of relationships as well as sold a lot of homes. And there was opportunity when I came over. There's still opportunity 4 years later here at Real, 20,000 agents. You've got some parts of the United States that are very populated with Real agents. San Antonio is a good example. I've got a good friend down in San Antonio where he's still continuing to attract, just in his local market, hundreds of agents in San Antonio. Now, up in the Northeast, such as yourself, for whatever reason, you guys are a little bit slower for change. So, there's a lot of people still sitting with brokerages that, may work for them, but there's more opportunity, like there is at Real, for them to come over here and grow, an organization that could potentially financially set them up far better than their current brokerages for their future. I've got it's one of my best friends up in Vancouver, Canada. And I sit there and I talk with, he's got a girlfriend that's licensed with another brokerage, and the girlfriend's brother is also licensed, and they're a team. And then I've talked to a small team that's also in another local brokerage there, all in Vancouver. And I can't comprehend why they're paying as much as they're paying when they could be in a way better position financially at Real. They just don't know anything about Real. There's no presence in their market. And as more and more agents, teams, and just our brokerage as a whole continues to come over, people are going to understand Real, just like people understood, EXP eventually, and, they're sitting shy of 90,000 agents. A lot of people don't need explaining for EXP. Real's not a ton different. I would say Real's different in its culture significantly, and then has fine-tuned a lot of the business model and the intentions as a whole, meaning the brokerage itself. But my best friend, one of my best friends up in Vancouver, is a prime example. He's come over here. He's been here a year. But as things start to get more, I guess once Real starts to roll out a little bit more in Vancouver, he's going to, starting with his girlfriend and girlfriend's brother, who are already going to transition over here eventually. I'm going to have a pretty strong presence in Vancouver because there's no presence as of right now. Now, this could be said in any submarket all over the country or in Canada. My fiance lives, or I say fiance lives, my fiance lived in Quebec, which we're not even open yet because it's essentially like a whole different country because they all speak French. But she's a prior realtor up there and has connections to, get me on a Zoom call with maybe only French-speaking realtors up in Quebec, where she is going to sit there and speak French to, and potentially grow a leg of my organization when we, open up in Quebec sometime. And there's more and more opportunity coming as we continue to grow. So by no means, long story short, 20,000 agents, we're going to look back and laugh at the size that we are now, years down the road. We're going to be at 50,000 agents and couldn't even, believe that we didn't think there'd be much more growth at 20,000 agents, which I wholeheartedly believe there's a ton more growth to happen. But, the last couple months we continue to grow, almost at 1,000 agents every single month.
It's awesome. And it's why I chose to join Real, specifically for some of the points you just mentioned. Up here in the Northeast, we are traditionally dinosaurs when it comes to, new things. And I see the opportunity. We're already starting to see, I feel like the snowball is just starting to gain some momentum here in New England. And it's one of the reasons, the main driving forces behind me coming over was to help build the Northeast and help build Real here in the Northeast. And so, awesome, man. Well, it's been great. Ton of good stuff in this conversation. If you've got something out of it, definitely would love to hear from you. And feel free to reach out to us directly. Casey, thank you so much, man, for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me, man.